Okay. I suppose we can start. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you here. My name is Dan Luca. I'm Vice President of Euractiv, the media in EU Affairs. Very happy to be with you here because 25 years ago, I was a little bit like most of you, activist in the Students' Association. It was not the same network, but we don't use brands here. And if you check my Facebook account, it's full of that association. That is really, I was so proud and so good memories. And please live the life, do crazy projects, responsible, of course. And that's where we are here now. We are very happy to facilitate Euractiv these debates between two wonderful groups, of course, Pernod Ricard and Erasmus Student Network. Many thanks to Trust Euractiv to help you in these debates, because today we'll speak a lot about partnerships and empowering young adults. And that's the topic of the event. And I want to add another one word. We speak between friends. And personally, happened to be first time when I know every of the panelists, including with my good friends from Romania, Victor Negrescu, who we share either the same values in the political arena, also with Joao. Congratulations, you lead a strong association and we engage a lot. We have so many coffees around Schumann and speak about big politic things. Sometimes happen, sometimes less, but at least we are engaging in the big topics, and it's really a good time to speak about big topics now and to think about big topics and think about Europe. And of course, Alexandre Ricard, it's amazing. I discovered your organization with your people from Brussels, but also your personal involvement in this project in general in Europe. And we are really looking, tomorrow we'll have an interview, exclusive interview with Alexandre about really global leaders, about global topics, and we are really looking to see your ideas for the future, more than for the sector, because you are more than. And last but not least, my good friend, and we either spent some time together in the same company, Euractiv, Florence, really a lady of Europe, if I can put. And I will not be longer on this, and I'll pass the floor to Florence. Many thanks and good luck with the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for your welcome. I'm awfully sorry. This is the best I can do. So I hope my voice warms up as the debate continues, but I will try to make sure that you hear and understand what I am saying. So as Dan said, we're going to be focusing this afternoon on the role of partnerships in empowering European young adults and young people in general. And empowering is a key value of not only companies, but also many organizations. We're very happy to be partnering in that with the European Student Network, which I'm going to be calling ESN for short throughout the discussion, and of course, Pernod Ricard, the famous global wine and spirits company. The last 2 years of pandemic have seen a lot of changes in our way of life, and in particular, in the way of life of young people, young adults who've been trapped and prevented from carrying out a lot of their projects. They have faced many issues, whether in terms of personal development or professional and studies developments as well. And at the same time, a lot of joint partnerships, joint initiatives have been launched or have been reinforced in order to help them overcome these obstacles. These partnerships have also aimed to support them, but they have done so by working with them, because we all know that if we try and impose anything on anyone, and in particular on young people, that's a sure recipe for no buy-in. So increasing personal responsibility is definitely part of this approach. The fact that we all have to be responsible for our own behavior. And the partnership that was launched some 13 years ago by Pernod Ricard and ESN embodies fully these values. The partnership is called Responsible Party, as you all know already, but maybe some of you online did not know that yet. And it has 3 goals. It aims to raise awareness about responsible drinking among young adults, but it also aims to reduce alcohol-related harm among the same people, and not only in Europe, but beyond, because a couple of years ago, the project became a global project. It is a non-branded project, and I think it's very important to highlight that. And it is also a project that rests on a peer-to-peer approach. So that's also a key, an essential feature. So before we dive into the discussion and see how maybe go more in depth into the model of responsible party, but also how maybe the model of responsible party, the model of peer-to-peer and partnerships could be applied to other parts of life, other aspects of our life. We will look at how the partnership has turned into an actual ecosystem, as it has its own life, its own brand, and how it exists both in the field, but also online, thanks to digital activation. Before I turn to our first speakers, I'd like to invite you to follow us online and join the discussion. So to join the discussion online, we have several hashtags. So do tweet, do share, do post on Instagram. And it's great to have such a young audience, because I know that for once you're really going to be active on social networks. And I'm sure our followers online will be the same. So hashtag responsible party, hashtag drink more water, all in one word, hashtag hold the night. Now that sounds like quite a program. And of course we have the hashtag of this is ESN, so this in capital, is in small letters, ESN in capital. This is ESN. And of course, the hashtag for our friends and media partners of Euractiv, EA Debates. So now that you know which hashtags to use, to help us understand the presence and the way Responsible Party is now a brand of its own in various countries, who better but national representatives of ESN. So I'm going to ask the representatives of Spain and the Netherlands to share with us their experience. And if you'd like to maybe stand up, I don't know which one of you is going to start. And hello, good afternoon. Now I'm going to ask you to tell us why Responsible Party is important in your ESN country, and how do you, as an organization, work with the program on the ground, and how do you make sure that it reaches students directly?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to speak about this cooperation with Responsible Party in Spain. I'm actually Miguel Hernández, President of ESN Spain, and this partnership we think it's really, really important and useful for ESN, because it helps us define what the Erasmus experience is beyond wild parties that many people would think as the main stereotype that we want to clarify. Because first of all, it's not like people who don't go on Erasmus party at home, and second of all, it's not like party is everything. A person that goes Erasmus can party responsibly, can take the time to do a lot of cultural activities, trips, volunteering activities, social impact activities. That's the essence of ESN all over the 41 countries that we are present. And thanks to cooperation with a partner the size and the reach that we can do with Responsible Party, we helped our international students. In the case of ESN Spain, more than 30,000 students that are provided the services of our 1,500 volunteers, discovered this way of having responsible parties with these projects like Drink More Water and this how to raise this awareness about all this importance. To have some examples, because I'm so sorry, I tend to speak too much, and I mean, we have luck that English is not my mother tongue, because that would be way worse. For example, if I had to say two things, the first one would be the 3 national events that ESN Spain organizes per academic year for more than 1,000 international students from everywhere in the world, where Responsible Party has been one of our main focus, both in the parties itself, but also during more relaxed times where they can learn about the effects of alcohol and the misuse that it can have so that they behave responsibly. And also for our volunteers in internal events, both training events and our general assemblies, where people from Responsible Party could have sessions, training sessions, and present directly their project so that our volunteers are the first ones to know about this so that they can then act as multipliers for all the international students that we have relationships with during the year. So for us, it's a big chance because collaborating with professionals like those makes everyone make the most of this experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we now hear from your colleague from the Netherlands.
Yes, also on my behalf, thank you for inviting us. My name is Rick. I'm the president of ESN the Netherlands. And a little in a nutshell, I delved into our archives, and for a lot of years, we already closely collaborate with Pernod Ricard to drink more water, but also to raise more awareness of alcohol consumption. Because for the ones who do not know, in the Netherlands, there's a very strong student culture where alcohol, partying, and more alcohol is involved. And we as ESN, we are also there for the social integration and the well-being of our students, both Dutch students and international students. And for example, through this Drink More Water campaign, but also through other online informative campaigns, we really try to raise awareness for our students, like take care of your health, because that's very important as well. If I can give an example, we also host our national events. One of our famous national events is King's Day. King's Day is the day on the 27th of April where we celebrate the birthday of our king. It may seem very innocent, very nice, but basically it's a lot of drinking. A lot of drinking is involved. And we organized together with Pernod Ricard an after cruise party where we had party squads, where they hand out water, where we had a lot of posters on the ship itself, where we very low-key tried to inform the students about alcohol consumption and the side effects of that. And what we received very, very positive feedback, both from our students as well from Pernod Ricard, that they really said, like, yes, this is a very good campaign, and we really encourage you to continue this collaboration. So actually in 2 weeks, we will meet them in the Amsterdam office to talk about, to strengthen the visibility of Pernod Ricard in events and to disseminate the information towards our volunteers so they can translate this information back to their international students, so we can make our Dutch ESN network more responsible, that we can party more responsibly, and that we take care of the well-being of our international students, as ESN stands for that as well.
Thank you very much. So the time has come to turn to our panel. Dan has already half introduced all three of you, so maybe I will go in a little more detail. It's a pleasure to welcome Victor Negrescu, who's a member of the European Parliament, and he's also the vice chair of the Cult Committee of the Parliament. We have Alexandre Ricard, who is the CEO of Pernod Ricard, and Juan Rayon Gonzalez, who's the president of ESN. Welcome to all three of you. So my first question will be actually the same for all of you. And I'd like to understand how you see or how you think that public-private partnerships, or PPPs as we call them for short, do contribute to a more responsible and a more sustainable Europe. And maybe starting with you, Victor.
First of all, thank you for the invitation. And just to start by making a joke, partnerships are key because I look at the picture. You have a great picture, actually, by the way, on the posters. So if we had already a partnership, we would have had a better picture as well. But now we are doing better. So partnerships are key, of course, when it comes to deploying projects on the ground. Because partnerships enable us to have contact on the ground. You have pre-existing experiences. And also in the same time, you are not doing what was already done before. So through partnership, actually, you can use the added value that each of the participants involved brings at the table. So you can have an NGO that has strong local roots, and you saw that here. You have people on the ground, they meet students, students speaking with students. It's natural. So you are not forced, for instance, to ask people that work within your company to go meet students because you already have the partner doing that. In the same time, it is key that if you want to develop a campaign, like in this case, drink more water. By the way, I drink a lot of water. You are not going to, try to identify a partner that doesn't have a clue about the product itself or about, in this case, water. So you are going to the company that has the experience that can explain the added value of water, how it is being produced, why it is good for the health, but also for the environment in the same time. So you can do that very concretely. And of course, you can go further on. You can look at the media. You have Euractiv here. They have a platform across Europe. So you are not going to go and send press releases in each member state. You have them doing that for you. So this is why partnerships are so important, because they can enable us to have a bigger impact with less work, with a smaller impact on the environment also sometimes, while in the same time, of course, meeting the target. So at European level, the European Union allocates a lot of importance to that, especially us from the European Parliament side. So the CUL committee, for those of you that do not know, is in charge of culture, education, youth, media and sports, so with all of those topics involved. And in the European Parliament, we try to convince the Commission that this is the way to go. So for instance, when there is a call for tender, instead of simply asking for a strong beneficiary, which has important elements like strong co-financing capacity and a lot of references, ask them to come up with partnerships. Bring together different stakeholders, not only from one country, but from several countries that can implement that respective project and that can have a true impact. So I really believe, of course, young people are more open towards partnering up between themselves, but also with different relevant stakeholders. And we have to use this existing potential. And I'm certain that, of course, across Europe, we can see a lot of interesting projects that prove to be successful, and we have to do more in supporting them at European level.
Alexandre, how can PPPs help a more responsible and a more sustainable Europe?
No, first of all, I agree with everything you said. For me, public-private partnerships can be extremely powerful, a lot more powerful than just going alone. If, number one, you have a common goal, which is exactly what we have with Responsible Party, about raising awareness on responsible consumption, on harmful use of alcohol, etc. And you bring a diverse set of expertise on the same boat, because we're all on the same boat with that common goal, with different expertise of the different stakeholders, and that is extremely more powerful than just going alone. Yes. It's real teamwork, it's real alignment, and it works. And 13 years of experience demonstrates that fundamentally it works. I'll give you maybe two numbers. Close to 90% of the students we interviewed, it's an independent study, but out of 30,000 or so students, said that this program was extremely useful for them. And almost two-thirds, a bit more than 60%, changed their alcohol consumption habits once they came into contact with the program. And I do believe in peer-to-peer, absolutely. So for me, it is much more powerful than just going alone.
Yeah, indeed. Juan.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here today, and thank you to my fellow speakers. I totally agree, and I also would like to add a reflection from our side, which is related to how nowadays society, and especially young people, expect all actors to take action, right? You cannot, like back in the days, maybe say, no, but this is not really my field, I don't have to take action here, maybe others can do it, maybe the public sector can do it, the government can do it. And now you can see how with societal challenge, all kinds of societal challenges, including responsible consumption, but also including sustainability, including gender equality, including LGBTQ rights. People expect all kinds of organizations to take action, and I have to say, rightly so. So that's the power of partnerships. Since society expects us, NGO leaders like myself, politicians, business leaders, to work together towards common goals that we do have, we have the responsibility to do so. Because in the end, we all respond, right? Either to our constituents, to our shareholders, to our members and students and young people in general. And then those partnerships are actually the right way to go forward because they allow you to have a bigger impact. And also, as Alexander said, you can always try nowadays to have your own initiative, to say, I'm doing this, it's relevant, I'm doing this in this concrete field, but then you will never achieve the same impact. This is what we have been seeing for 13 years. Since we work together and we can provide the spaces, we can provide the direct contact with students, with the young people, but then Pernod Ricard can give us the technical expertise, the support, the broader understanding of the business sector. And then, of course, we do it in a way in which we also connect with public frameworks, like the Sustainable Development Goals, right? Like Responsible Party is also quite aligned with many of the SDGs, and in general, we have trying to align our work more and more with the SDGs and with other frameworks like the EU Youth Strategy, etc. Right? So this is how we are bringing basically all the pieces together. We are operating within societal frameworks that are determined by the public sector. In this case, we work in the EU levels. We follow closely all the policy initiatives, and then we see how we can work together to bring our forces, to provide technical knowledge and our capacity to reach out to young people on the ground.
So you've already almost answered my next question, all three of you, but I'd like maybe to dig a little deeper into the way the particular PPP that we're talking about, so Responsible Party, can increase the will to fight, to actively fight the misuse of alcohol among young people. We've already heard some figures from you, Alexandre. Maybe you'd like to explain a little more in depth how it works?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, the most powerful elements here is the empowerment piece. I think that especially in today's world, a vertical approach, top-down approach, a distant approach, these are things that do not work. I think what really works is, first of all, communication based on real expertise, real knowledge, and then it's pure empowerment and accountability. I think that if you look at young adults today, they have a real thirst for knowledge, to really know. They are responsible at the end of the day, when you see the eagerness they have to really join this kind of program, to really empower themselves through the peer-to-peer approach, which is a lot more powerful than just a top-down vertical approach, I think this is where you're really efficient on the how versus being directive.
Yeah. Juan, you're nodding
yes,
very strongly.
No, absolutely. I think that indeed we have two main dimensions, right? Which is the attacking a challenge from different angles, right? So that's if we could do it alone, we could miss expertise, we could miss a broader picture of the reality, and that is fundamental. So this is why in this particular case of alcohol consumption, that is so important, because we don't have the technical knowledge in ESM, for instance, right? About many of the challenges related to misuse of alcohol. And then indeed what is so powerful, and this is what we see on the ground, is the peer-to-peer component, right? Of course, peer-to-peer might sometimes sound a bit as a buzzword, right? Because we say it a lot, but it is relevant. It is relevant precisely because of what Alexander said. Because we see that our students want to have conversations. They don't want to be only directed towards something. They want to discuss things, they want to ask questions, they want to engage in discussions, they want to know more. Indeed, they don't only want to be told, yeah, you need to do this. They want to know the why. And this is when the training component that, for instance, Miguel highlighted before, the discussion dimension in which we go to events, we are there, and we, interact, of course, through goodies, but also through, the conversations with the party squad, etc. It's so relevant. And also because when we join forces in a problem like misuse of alcohol, then we can bring more people on board. We can slowly bring more people on board, right? So it's us, I think it's also how we discuss this with the universities, with how we discuss this with public authorities, etc. The shared responsibility allows us to bring more people on board, which is very relevant.
Yeah, so a sort of snowball effect.
Exactly.
Victor.
I think there is another concept that needs also to be underlined. It's the issue of ownership. And this is really important. So if you want people to be responsible about a certain topic, they have to feel that they own the topic. and they own the issue, and it's their decision. And this is a key factor when it comes, of course, to tackling the side effects or negative effects of alcohol consumption or other issues. And of course, this can be generated through different ways. So first of all, is information and education. This is key. A second layer is indeed, of course, to make sure that this information comes from credible people. And we have to understand that, especially for young people, who surround them, I mean by that friends, family, and so forth, are an important factor in decision making. So therefore, they have to be informed as well and contribute to that in the same time. And of course, what also important is the relevance of that respective topic for which they are making a decision for themselves, but also for the others, for the community, and the impact it has. So of course, there isn't a perfect solution on how to generate empowerment or ownership. And this makes it really hard. But this is why you need to put people together, working together, identifying the best way to create ownership on a respective topic. Because dealing with alcohol consumption, you need several factors to create empowerment on that respective element. If you want to create ownership on a matter related to gender balance or gender rights, you need other factors to generate those elements that can create a certain level of understanding and responsibility. And of course, for different topics, you need different factors, different instruments, and different partners to get involved. So of course, this doesn't happen immediately. So it is key, and maybe we can learn about that. In 13 years of experience, you change the methods that you are applying. Also because people, and especially the people here in front in the first two rows that are very young, probably they do not react to what we used to, on how we reacted 13 years ago, when I was a student, for instance. So this is also something that we need to learn. And of course, this is also something that decision makers, legislators, even the Commission has to learn. That, Erasmus programs worked differently when it was started, and now we have to find different ways of financing young people, developing new programs that are adapted to what the people in front of us need, and do them and apply the method and the instrument that are adapted to all of that.
Let me pick up on what you just said, actually, about how things have, or about each young people generation is different from the previous one, and about how we have to adapt. We've just started reflecting on 13 years of a successful partnership. So, looking at the role indeed of EU policymakers or also national governments, for instance, all the various levels of policy making, how do you think we could encourage them to further consider, integrate, involve young adults in order to promote this type of cooperation, this type of partnerships in societal issues, and not only about responsible drinking, but also looking at mental health or social issues, which there have been a lot after the pandemic?
So I think there are two layers. First of all is we should do our best to keep legislators and decision makers in contact with real life. And I can tell you, it's been a while since I entered the European Parliament. Is sometimes you are so much focused on what you do there that you forget to look at how things are happening in concrete terms. So, I'm always happy when an amendment is approved and I get money for young people, for instance. But I rarely have the time to look at the results of it. So this is why it's important to have student NGOs or other structures contacting me and saying, look, come with us. We're going to show you how the project has been implemented and what are the errors, what was the mistake, but also what are the positive sides. So let's try to keep legislators in contact with real life. And I mean by that not only politicians, but also in the case of the European Union is public servants. They do play a key role. And sometimes they are harder to convince. So we have to keep them in contact. And it's not easy sometimes also with the procedure. And the second element, I think we have to debureaucratize public funding, especially when it comes to young people. So of course, we create a lot of procedures. Procedures are key. Regulations are really important. But again, if you want to reach young people, especially young people coming from disadvantaged background, or that maybe are not so keen in getting informed, or are affected by different problems, like mental health, but also alcohol-related problems, you need to reach them in a different way. if we ask them to apply for funding and write a 10-page project to get the funding, probably they will not do that. So I think we have to find new ways. And in the Erasmus, there is this possibility, for instance, for 4 young people to put their know-how together and apply for funding without even creating an NGO. So I think this type of methods should be diversified, and this will enable us to reach more young people.
Indeed. Juan, would you like to comment on
Yeah,
Victor's
I
suggestions?
absolutely agree, and I'm very happy because, for instance, Mr. Negrescu, I think he fought until the 11th hour for more budget last year in Erasmus Plus, right? So that was also very nice to see how, like the advocacy efforts of organizations like ours can then lead to those changes. And it is true that it should also be, like this kind of our responsibility as NGOs of having this outreach component, right? To keep politicians not only in check, but also updated and informed about our initiatives and about what is the follow-up from the initiatives that we advocate for. Indeed, accessibility of funding is extremely important in that regard. And it can also be connecting to this dimension of public-private partnerships, how we use all the funding opportunities that the EU has, especially in the fields of education and youth, to integrate collaborations between different partners, right? It can be, for instance, how the co-financing dimension of many projects can also include support from companies, for instance, for, like for certain activities, like could be the case for us in certain projects that we do, in which we are already starting to implement these kind of initiatives, in which we have funding from the European Parliament for a certain thing, and then certain companies also supporting the initiative, which allows us to reach out to more people. So allowing that to happen and creating frameworks in which this collaboration can materialize from a financial perspective, but also from a dissemination perspective, I believe it's really important to also make them more inclusive. Because many times the dialogue between youth organizations and companies doesn't happen naturally. There is a need for better facilitation so the dialogue can actually happen. In our case in ESN, we have a lot of experience working with companies, right? Because we work with students on the ground and we try to get, like the best services for them, but it's not the case across the sector. So it can be a way to reflect how better regulation can help these dialogues to occur more often.
Thank you. And Victor, as vice chair of the CULT committee, I mean, you have given us some example. You've already said that you've tried hard to get more funding for youth organizations and so on. But how do you think we can further develop the actual model of partnerships? Indeed, there's the approach of suggesting partnerships in calls for tender for the Commission, for instance. Has the European Year of Youth changed things, or is it changing things? Has it shown some progress in the involvement of young people, or in this particular approach?
I don't know how to answer this question without disappointing too many people, but yeah. So on the European Year for Youth, I always tell people what happened. Very interesting is the youth NGOs promoted this idea of having a European Year for Youth. And they convinced the Commission to call for the creation of this year, and they only announced it at the end of the year. It was a little bit late, to be very frank. But interestingly enough, what we discovered is that the Commission launched a proposal, and they forgot to allocate the resources for it. And in the draft proposal for the budget for this year, they didn't put any money in it. So we in the European Parliament, and I drafted together with my colleague the amendment, we asked for a specific sum for the European Year for Youth. We got it till the end. The negotiation finished, I think, half an hour before the end of the deadline, because otherwise we would have had to redo the process. And we got 6 million euros. And now we ask the Commission what is happening with the money. And the 6 million are still unspent. So this is a big problem again. We are at half of the year, and this is a big issue. And this is why we are very clear from the European Parliament side in saying to the Commission, but also to Member States. Member States do play a role, and sometimes they have their breaks. They are breaking everything. But we tell them, look, we have the European Year for Youth. Maybe we didn't do so many things. But what is clear is that at the end of this year, we have to have a list of recommendations that have to be implemented. And among that list of recommendations, we have to have clear elements that can be put forward. And of course, in my opinion, we can certainly underline the role of partnerships in helping young people and coming up with concrete solutions that can be followed up after that in something that might seem boring for you, which is in the regulation. Because now probably we are going to have the revision of the multi-annual financial framework, so revision of the long-term budget of the European Union. And if we start this process, hopefully, because we need it in the current context, probably we will need to revise some of the regulation as well. And there we can certainly promote the issue of partnership and give it a stronger role, because we have to understand the EU budget is not so big. So the European budget, the budget that we have for the European Union, it's the budget of Austria. So we have so many countries, so many people, and we have to deal with those, with the issues that we have together with the budget of a medium-sized country. So therefore, we need partnerships in order to reinforce the impact at European level. And in those partnerships, you need, of course, the NGOs that can do things better because they have the local roots. You need the private partners that can, of course, team up in order to co-finance and increase the participation. You need local authorities, and we have to mention them. They do play a key role. You need local authorities also to be part of the process. So I think this is the way to go. It's not easy. And I think what is also important, and the reason why I'm attending today's conference, is to highlight some positive projects and to show, maybe learn from them and learn how to use let's say, the recommendations that come from those projects to enable us to scale up other existing projects or do better or work when it comes to important initiatives at local and European level.
So, Alexandre, to pick up on the partnership approach, for the moment you're focusing mostly on students, thanks to ESN. Do you think that this kind of cooperation, this kind of partnership should or could reach out to other young adults?
Well, listen, if you look at the last 13 years and the evolution of the last 13 years, I think that Responsible Party today no longer resembles Responsible Party 13 years ago, because new generations are there, because there are different ways of communicating as well. Digital has fundamentally increased. And a couple of years ago, we came up with hashtag sharing good vibes. We'll talk about this maybe later, but the whole Drink More Water digital campaign. So leveraging digital, which 13 years was probably not critical amongst the new generation. Number one. Number two, it was Erasmus, and now it's spreading globally, again, around targeting young adults. So it is scaling based on all the knowledge and all of the key learnings we have accumulated so far. And by the way, it's never going to stop. It's almost a never-ending, continuous improvement process. Maybe one thing which I heard a few minutes ago, which I think is absolutely critical. I really think that good or better regulation comes through strong partnerships and feet on the ground and real experience, versus a regulation that may be a little bit too centralized and a little bit distant and maybe a bit too technocratic. And this is critical. We have seen in various industries and various teams when regulation is developed without real on-the-ground experience, then the consequences might not be that positive. So I really think this reinforces the whole purpose of the partnership and its power.
Debureaucratize, as Victor put it. I loved that word. I think I'm going to use it again. So, Victor, I know you have to leave at some point, but do let us know. But maybe I can keep you for another question. We have Responsible Party, and that's implemented by a company and a students' network. Similarly, other companies have made different types of commitments on other topics. And do you think that in the future, Pernod Ricard could or should get involved with its actual brands in such a partnership?
Quite a difficult question. So I noticed in your presentation that you underlined the fact that in this case the private partner doesn't use the branding, And to be very frank, despite the fact that I'm coming from the private sector myself, I believe if you want to do corporate social responsibility, you should do it without branding. And I hate it when I see foundation, I don't know what name of the company, and they say we do corporate social responsibility, but they do more advertising with the foundation than actually what they are doing for the people that they are actually helping. And I know this is difficult because you have shareholders, you need to explain what is happening with the money, you need to do all of that. So there needs to be an added value also for the private side in a way. At least, if not directly, at least through the fact that people are reacting positively to the outcome of the project. So, of course, I don't think we have currently a perfect framework. We have different models across Europe when it comes to public-private partnerships. In some countries, things are moving better. In some other countries, you have to stay away from the private sector. So, yeah, we have to find a balance at some point. So I think what is the usual procedure at European level is maybe, and this might be good, again, if we speak about good regulation, is coming up with a very clear and very transparent, but very clear, I'm underlining once more, code of conduct on how to pursue this type of initiatives and projects that, first of all, will offer protection to the private partner. In the second part, it will guarantee to the beneficiary of the project that he is not part of the project in order to buy something, and this is also important. And also will offer the civil society and the local authorities the possibility also to say no on some of the objectives that the private partner might have. So I think this is the way to go. And I think, and I encourage, of course, the Commission and regulators to try to think about that. But what is key as well, when we elaborate code of conduct, is to do it with the partners for whom you are doing that. Because I noticed also in the past, code of conduct or different frameworks coming on and being promoted, and there wasn't an exchange of views, a real exchange with the ones that were impacted by that respective regulation. So this is an idea that I have, and I hope, of course, we can pick it up and promote it afterwards.
Thank you. Juan, picking up on that particular point, how did such a partnership come about? How did ESN make the decision to partner with an alcohol company to look at responsible drinking?
So I think that, this is such a good and comprehensive question, right? Because to answer it, we need to understand what ESN does and what is our societal role. ESN is an activity-driven organization. We have a unique capacity to mobilize students, to organize activities. Checking our annual report this year, we saw that we organized more than 10,000 activities last year. So from this continuous development of organizing activities since almost the beginning of the program, because Erasmus started in 1987, and ESN was already created in 1989, So it's 33 years now for us organizing activities. We saw that the fact of organizing social gatherings, parties, all kinds of initiatives, activities on the ground with a social dimension in which people meet each other, have fun, learn to challenge stereotypes, practice new languages. We have a unique opportunity, right? Because we have a unique opportunity to create a spirit of togetherness. But we also have a responsibility because we organize activities in which alcohol is consumed. Therefore, as an organization that believes that can play a role in shaping the behaviors, the competences of young people, we thought, okay, what are the kind of initiatives that we can do to tackle this challenge of elements like alcohol consumption? And we look around. Who is willing to partner up with us? Who is the best possible partner that really cares about this topic and is also willing to put their money where their mouth is? And Pernod Ricard was very much willing to do so because they know the issue, they care about it, and they want to use their resources to support the people that can then have an impact on the ground. So I think it was a mutual understanding from the beginning that this idea of partnerships could help us to enhance the role that we play, right? The role that we play in our case as an organization, in their case as one of the leading companies in the sector in the world. And that was the idea. The idea was that we assume our responsibility as an NGO with incredible outreach on the ground that believes that our activities can make a difference, but we are also aware of the challenges related to those activities. Partnering up with a company that is willing to allocate the resources, the commitment, the expertise to tackle those challenges was definitely the right decision. Because we also know what our young people want, precisely what Alexander was saying. They don't want certain types of vertical messages. They don't want, the empty statements that do not work. We needed something different. And from that needs analysis, I would say, the partnership started, and it's been there 13 years, right? So apparently we were right. We were quite successful.
Hello? Yes. Yeah, I'm afraid we're probably going to hear a few more planes because I think this is the Belgian Air Force rehearsing for the military parade on the 21st of July. So they're rehearsing right there and flying right behind us. So don't worry if you hear more aircrafts. It's normal. Alexandre, you've heard our two panelists. And from your point of view, you were clearly very open to the partnership from what Juan just said, and you were willing from the start to get involved. And it seems like it has been a partnership of equals, both of you bringing in ideas, bringing in initiatives. So. You did talk about the impact of partnership and the power of basically togetherness, but is that why you didn't go alone before? Because you could have done something before on your own.
No, we could have gone alone. We do have responsible consumption campaigns in many markets where we go alone, of course, but I don't think it's as powerful as when you team up. I think that on that front, the more, the stronger. The bigger the team with a common goal, the more powerful. I'd just like to make one comment on the brand piece. Because it's something I've been thinking for quite a while. At the end of the day, our goal is impact, okay? So we want to make sure that if I take the responsible consumption priority, we want to make sure that it resonates, that it really engages. So there's the partnership, where you have the peer-to-peer program, which really works. This partnership, by the way, is unbranded. You're right. We made a conscious choice 13 years ago to go unbranded. But I would not underestimate the power of a brand. Now, the one thing I can guarantee is whatever a message a brand wants to share with its community, the brand needs to be credible and relevant. So not any brand can share any message. It needs to be a credible, relevant message to any given brand, because a brand has a soul, a brand stands for something, a brand has a set of values, and every single brand, in, for instance, Pernod Ricard's portfolio, has a separate set of strong values they stand for. And they have a community of people, of consumers, that really love engaging with the brand. One of the most active brands in the social space, by the way, you probably, many of you heard about it, is Absolut. Absolut has, part of the DNA of Absolut has always been to be very active on the social front, and has been at the forefront of a number of social causes. When a brand engages with a community of people, it can be extremely powerful. So I would not underestimate that impact. We have a branded responsible consumption campaign in China, and the results so far are absolutely outstanding, because if I take Drink More Water, imagine it was Drink More Water by Pernod Ricard. People who know Pernod Ricard, which is a spirits company, would say, now why would a company like Pernod Ricard come out with a campaign saying drink more water because they produce spirits? That would trigger an interesting discussion, which would then explain why it's important to us. So on the branded front, my view is, if it's relevant and coherent with the set of values of any given brand, we should also leverage the power of a brand to engage on a special message. But for me, both the unbranded piece and the branded piece can work hand in hand, separately.
Okay. So do we have questions from the room? I was just checking, we do not have any online. Yes, Ulrich? There's a mic coming your way. No, for the online audience, we need the mic.
Thank you. Ulrich Adam from Spirits Europe. I would have a question to Victor, expanding on the public-private partnership point, because in Brussels we mostly talk, unfortunately, about regulation, hard regulation. So we've seen that public-private partnerships can work and achieve great successes, like the initiative here we're talking about in its 13th year. But we also have a code of conduct on, in terms of self-regulation. For instance, in the food industry, was launched by DG Sante last year, and all the food industry players, associations and companies, including Pernod Ricard, us, other distillers, and everyone around the food industry made far-reaching commitments on how we improve our sustainability records in the coming years. And now the question is, how does that evolve? Where do you see such initiatives in self-regulation develop in tandem or as alternative to hard regulation? In our case, for instance, now in next year we will face a legislative proposal on sustainable food systems. And I think it's very important to have the trust between the partners, which is there, but it's not always there. And your view on how private industry and regulators, Commission, Parliament, Council can work together on sustainability, responsibility projects, and make sure that we work, we have this common vision, as Alexandra said, and work together rather than eyeing each other as competitors. And how can we work together on such projects as well? Thank you.
Thank you. So.
I'm not going to refer to the specific policies that you mentioned, and because this is not the purpose of today's meeting, but just generally speaking, I'm going to underline something that I said earlier. So I'm personally the partner or the supporter of co-creation of legislation. So really having an open and transparent process, building those policies that are going to be applied. And having policies and regulation that can certainly be applied in coherent terms across Europe. Because you also have transposition of European legislation, and sometimes when you translate the laws, it's being applied differently in different places in the world. In Europe, in different places in Europe, so in different ways. And I noticed, of course, by looking at different regulation that this transposition, this translation of the laws in national legislation sometimes happen very difficultly, and I'm underlining once more this fact, with huge differences. This is why enforcing is a key issue. So, of course, if we regulate or we do something, we draft the legislation, we have to make sure this is actually put into place. So this is, let's say, what is not working with self-regulation. Because self-regulation is a self-imposed standard, but you do not have any means to make sure that everyone is applying it. And in the same time, the public authority doesn't have any means to make sure that everyone is applying it. Because you said we are self-regulating, but there is no control measures. So in the same time, I don't agree for the legislator to do the drafting by itself without consulting everyone. Consulting the people on whom that are impacted by the legislation, but also consulting those that are part of the process of the production and on all of that in the same time. So this is why, again, I'm underlining the balanced approach. I think it's the way to go. It's not always simple. It's not always easy. And I can tell you from the numbers. So I don't know if you know that. The Commission, before it drafts legislation, they publish a consultation call. And what you will notice is that actually you don't have many people attending. In the case of the European Parliament, we do public hearings. We are forced to go look for the NGOs or the private partners to convince them to attend the public hearings for the legislation that we are drafting. Despite the fact everyone knows that what we are writing there might have an impact on many people. So this is also a problem. To which degree actually people want to participate. So, and what are the means to do that? We design digital formats of participation. So you can simply write an email and tell your opinion about a specific legislation. At the beginning, we received many emails. Now, almost no emails. Or if we receive emails, they are very specific and guided by specific interest. So it's not consultation because you only receive those specific, driven emails. So this is also a problem on how we are going to do public consultations, public participation, all of those means at European level on the long term. So this has been part of the Conference for the Future of Europe in trying to develop new means and new instruments to do that. Even the conference itself, which was and it is a great format, wasn't, in my opinion, fully successful. So we have to identify again new means to do all of that. Because what I hear very often is that, when we draft regulation at European level, no one is happy. So those that have to respect the regulation are not happy. Those for whom it was drafted are not happy because it doesn't go far enough. So we are always stuck somewhere. So it is clear that there is room to improve things. And of course, it's not only the European level that needs to be reinforced and improved. You all have the same problems also at national and local levels. So there are still a lot of things to be done. And of course, I'm always happy to hear any inputs or any recommendations on how we can better do this job in regulating with the people and for the people at the same time.
Thank you very much. Victor, I know you have to leave, but you're very welcome to stay with us as long as you want. So you need to go now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We're very happy to have you with us and to hear from you. And
now you can criticize. When politicians leave, you can criticize.
Yeah, your ears will be buzzing.
Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I now would like to welcome two new speakers to our panel, and I'm going to invite João Pinto, who's teaching assistant at the University of Minho in Portugal. He's also the former president of ESN, and Sabina Achim, who's the communication officer of FEDAREN, and that is the European Federation of Agencies and Regions for Energy and the Environment, but she's also a former board member of ESN. So welcome, Sabina and João. So we've looked at the various aspects of the partnership as such, and I'd like now to focus on how responsible party has evolved over time, because indeed we've seen that it has evolved, but it has also evolved maybe even more in the last 2 years, probably because of the context and because of the impact of the pandemic on young adults' lifestyle. And young adults themselves and youth organizations have also been the drivers of change. I mean, it's not only come from industry. So let's look maybe a little more closely at the outcome of these modifications, of this evolution. And my next question, I will start with our two newcomers. I'll put you on the spotlight right away. What, in your view, were the key ingredients of the success of these partnerships, and how do you think it has contributed to actually empowering young adults? João, do you want to start?
Sure. Thank you for inviting. It's a pleasure always to come to these Pernod Ricard events and ESN events and responsible party events. I think that over time, I was thinking about this question, and I think there's three perhaps key ingredients that I think have contributed to the success of this program. So first of all, it's communication. The fact that we have direct communication channels not only at international level, but perhaps especially at the national level. These direct communication channels allow for a certain degree of decentralization of the program that is part of its success. Not everything is managed centrally. The lack of verticality that you were mentioning is very positive, actually. And these direct communication channels at the national level allow for us to, well, one, solve the issues we might have, because all partnerships have issues. At the national level, if they're solved right there, that's better, because people understand each other. and also to implement the program in slightly different manners in accordance to the different cultures of a very diverse continent. That's very important. Then secondly is training. I mean, we have spent thousands of hours training our volunteers, not only on the actual implementation of the program in the parties, but also on related topics such as mental health, physical activity, and so on. And this decentralized training has allowed to bring many, many different people on board, and to as well make sure that the program is not only anymore only about parties, but it's also about different aspects of a life of a student. And this is all also very important for the peer-to-peer approach. Without training, there's no peer-to-peer approach, that's very clear. And then finally, well, money. Let's face it, Pernod Ricard is a global company, could be investing in so many different projects around the world, and it has decided to invest in a project to raise awareness about the risky alcohol consumption in a group that is at the highest risk. With this money, the Responsible Party program has resulted in, well, yes, the hundreds of hours of training, but also independent research, different activities, online and offline information campaigns, etc. Without the proper budgeting, this would be just an empty shell program. And that's not what it is. So I would highlight good communication, good training, and good budgeting.
Sabina, would you agree with that?
First of all, I'm very happy to be here and discuss about our long partnership. Secondly, I do agree, and I'm actually amused and happy to see that if you ask different people that were involved in this program during the years, they will find others and new key ingredients to mention for the success of our program and for these types of partnerships in general. So I will add my ingredients to the recipe. First, I would say that a key ingredient would be exactly this boldness of getting together such an unlikely pair of a student organization and a spirits company. And this type of partnership, I believe it's an investment in the future. And after 13 years, we can already see, but also foresee the impact that it has in the society through the involvement of the European youth in the society in general through their activity. Secondly, it's exactly this empowerment that you mentioned, and I believe Responsible Party empowers young people through listening and acknowledging the status quo instead of judging and marginalizing. I believe this is also going through the third ingredient that I see, and that would be the strong message delivered through the peer-to-peer approach. Because we do know that it's the peers that have a great influence on the individual, and we also know from our studies that we realized in the past years with Pernod Ricard that it is usually because of peers that young people get into excessive consumption of alcohol. It does happen, and especially at this level that we are talking about, international students, international youth discovering other cultures. Because it's the peers that matter, I see that a Responsible Party is fighting peer pressure with peer support, and in this way we can maybe shortly say that Responsible Party is about being a good friend.
Thank you. Juan.
Yes, I definitely agree, right? I mean, of course, with my colleagues, I mean, everything. Otherwise, it could be very strange. But I would like to add a couple of things, indeed. So the adaptability is very important, because adaptability is also about evolving. You know, like times change, and we should be able to bring new things to understand our organization. I think this is something that Pernod Ricard has done always very well. They have tried to understand how ESM works. It's not easy to understand how ESM works. For instance, Geraldine knows more about ESM probably than me and many presidents, right? She has been in more assemblies than many of our presidents. And that is very important because you do need to understand the concrete dynamics of youth organizations. This is something that it's a pity that Victor is not here now. We always explain to the politicians, you need to understand how the youth and student movement operates, what are our dynamics, because then you will understand how we work with young people. So that's a very important component. Another important component, and this connects to one of the first questions that you made, is choosing the right target group. Indeed, the program has developed, and now it's being implemented in more countries, and also with more audiences, but starting with international Erasmus students was the right decision. Why? Because this is a very concrete group of people that definitely hang out a lot, they interact a lot, but they're also very keen to explore, learn new things, experiment, meet new people, listen to new concepts. So trying it out with Erasmus students allowed us to understand how we can work also with the broader youth population. And I believe that's a fundamental ingredient, and this is why we managed to develop a model that now can be perfectly replicated also in other audiences. So I would add, I think, those two things.
Very good. So, Alexandre, now you have a full list of ingredients for that magic recipe, ranging from communications to training and adaptability, empowerment. But I think, if I may, I think the whole list of ingredients reflects very well on both roles that both organizations have played. And it is a tribute to the role that ESN has played, but also to the involvement of Pernod Ricard from the beginning. So,
But I'd like to say, and this is what has always impressed me most. So I definitely agree with all of these ingredients. I would add two words or two ingredients which we share, which is passion and commitment. I think that on both sides, on the ESN side, on the Pernod Ricard side, the teams are really committed to making this happen, and they're passionate about it. And what really works, again, is when you want versus then when you have to. And there's a deep desire, this commitment and passion to make it happen, which makes it also a big success. I think this is at the root of this crazy initial partnership that made it happen. The shared passion and commitment to make it a success. So that's a testimony to Erasmus Student Network and to the Pernod Ricard team that's been working on this for so long with so much desire. Yeah.
Great. So you're all on the same wavelength. Juan, this year is the 35th anniversary of Erasmus. And it's still going strong, and it is developing and always going further, and not only geographically. So how do projects like Responsible Party contribute to supporting Erasmus Plus, and how can it be replicated? I mean, could it be expanded, or not necessarily this project, but a similar project be replicated with the same approach?
Yeah. I think this is a fantastic question. I think that to answer this question, we need to start reflecting on why is Erasmus so well known, so powerful. And I believe that, Erasmus has become the best brand of the European Union. We were discussing brands before. This is proof, this is data-driven, right? Like, this is the program that is more recognized by Europeans, appreciated only after peace and freedom of movement, so it's quite a big thing. And the great thing that Erasmus has is that it's clear, understandable, and recognizable. In a world of very fluffy terms and concepts, Erasmus is something that everyone can understand. Going to another country to try out new things, discover new environments, etc. So a clear, strong, and powerful message that everyone, even if they're not participants, they can relate with. And I believe that the identity of Responsible Party is very much connected with this. Responsible Party. enjoying life. So it's not about prohibiting anything. It's not about forbidding. It's about making your parties more responsible. So it's about acknowledging that a fundamental dimension of Erasmus, like parties, social gatherings, bringing people together, can be done in a way in which it's responsible, it's better for participants, it's better for society at large, etc. Right? So this is how we have adapted, let's say, responsible party to the whole spirit of Erasmus, right? We have adapted to the way in which Erasmus happens, understanding what are the perceptions, the ideas, the dreams of Erasmus students, and responding to those needs. So this is how we have managed to make the program so successful, right? And we can safely say, precisely because of what my colleagues from Spain, the Netherlands have said, that now responsible party has become a key feature of many of the most important events in the Erasmus experience of thousands of students, hundreds of thousands over the years, because we have King's Day, we have the national events of IES in Spain, we have Evento Nazionale in IES in Italy, we have the Sea Battle. So across Europe, we have dozens of events with thousands of students in which you have responsible party as a recognizable brand, in which students know that they will be supported by the party squad, they will receive the training, etc. So we have ingrained it in many of the things that make ESN, and therefore Erasmus, so well perceived and so recognized. And I do believe, indeed, that more partnerships like this are applicable, right? It was the beginning of our conversation today. We identify many ingredients that we just described. So now it's about thinking, okay, both in Erasmus and in society in general, even beyond the program, we can replicate these elements of training, financial support, very important, because of course everybody likes to talk the talk. When it comes to walking the walk, it's a different thing. Use those ingredients, these partnerships can indeed replicate it across the board.
Hello? Yes. João and Sabina, when you both were ESN board members, Responsible Party was only activated in the field, but now it has also become online, it's become digital. So Sabina, I'll start with you. As João mentioned communication as one of the key topics and key parts of the recipe. But Sabina, you're a communications person. So do you think that digital is actually replacing physical activation at this stage? And how can we best combine both? Because I still believe that we need to combine both. We can't go full digital, and clearly the fact that it takes place, is represented in student events is a clear proof of that. So how can we best reach people by combining the two? And do you think that digital is going to take more and more place, more and more room?
I think this is a question, a topic that we cannot and we should not avoid, of course. Thank you, João, for mentioning communication as a pillar of a successful partnership. And also connected to that, I wanted to add on what Juan mentioned before. It's about how we communicate to those young adults, because we. As Juan mentioned, we do not insist, we do not say that it's forbidden to do this or that, but we actually shed light on these taboo topics, because there are some taboo topics when we grow up, such as alcohol consumption, excess of alcohol or substances, mental health. So yeah, this is a very important element in our communication, through which we empower young adults by being there for them and discussing these topics. And to slowly go to online, offline. Myself, when I was an Erasmus student 8 years ago, I was on the receiving end of the Responsible Party program. I didn't realize it back then, but this peer-to-peer approach, more specifically the peer support and the power of example, shaped me that year to understand what it means to be responsible and how to be responsible, actually starting with how I spend my nights and continuing with who are my friends, who I trust. And I was involved with the program, if I put together, for around 6 years. So I saw it being developed as a student, as a volunteer, as a national coordinator of the program in Romania, and then also as a co-creator together with Pernod Ricard while I was in the international board of ESN. Of course, as Juan mentioned, adaptability is very, very important. And Responsible Party started with working on the ground with students, this peer-to-peer approach that should never, of course, never leave the program, because this is what differentiates us from any other initiative. But during 2020, when the COVID pandemic hit, we were actually having great, maybe the biggest plan ever, together with our partner Pernod Ricard, about some events during the summer, where we would unite Europe together and make some policy statements, and then Corona hit, and we had to adapt very, very fast, because we saw that young people suffer. Of course, not only young people, but also young people suffer, and that isolation, loneliness can lead to excessive habits in general, maybe not healthy ones, also depression and other mental situations. And well, we adapted fast. We were very responsive with Responsible Party, and we initiated some big online campaigns. We focused in bringing influencers. This means that we collaborated with different artists to create content that we would share on social media, on the website. We organized free concerts for anybody on the internet to join. Also competitions. We had some great communication, some very strong messages, and also we were giving different advice that can be useful in those situations. And going digital, even if it was out of the sudden, this actually helped us not only communicate better with Gen Z, which is the student of today, but also for that specific different moment of time to reach more than just our normal young audience, you know, and go really internationally. But
a very, it was a very useful switch. You didn't have any choice in the beginning, but you did make the switch. And it proved not only useful, but in fact, it's probably helped you build on future projects, which are now going to be mostly digital.
Yes, for sure, it helped us build. But it's very important to mention that indeed we had a switch, and that out of the sudden everything had to be digital. And there's also generally there's this tiredness of being always online. And now we can see that we see people on the street, in events, at parties, at restaurants, and it's a bit of a reminder for us that there always needs to be a balance, and digital communication is very relevant nowadays. But in the topic that we tackle, which is a sensitive one, the peer-to-peer approach cannot miss. And it's actually very interesting to see the Drink More Water campaign, which is maybe an example of how offline fueled the online, and how...
I'm afraid to cut you, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're going to talk about that particular campaign in a minute,
Okay.
actually. So I'd like to close the first chapter before we go ahead onto that.
Sure. Then I can only add that that is very important to combine the online and the offline, because they're actually like yin and yang, and together with all of our channels that we have now, we can understand that we can reach more people, not only more people, but better if we focus on both sides. And for now, we have some strong messages. We have a website that is fighting misinformation. And we also have more than 500 ESN sections all over Europe that are in direct contact with our target audience.
So you are well set up, and you do have a very broad network and lots of connections. But indeed, I think a hybrid, half online, half in person, is the solution. Like we're having this event today, because there's quite a few people following us online as well. João, ESN is a multi-level network, and how do you connect the program, like a program like Responsible Party, to actual health and well-being issues at the different levels throughout the network?
Well, ESN is a network of young people. And young people, especially these young people, are very practical, hands-on, on-the-ground young people. So one of the main challenges that exists for the general ESNer is how to implement, how to translate wider policies, huge goals that are debated by all of these leaders we see on television, how to translate that into practical action on the ground. Sure, we know that the SDG number 3 is about having access to good health, but what does that mean really in practice? Well, Responsible Party is part of the answer. It's part of the solution on how to translate policy into concrete action. And that's how it works on a multi-level, transnational, international network. Is by allowing, through concrete examples of concrete activities, to be implemented in different levels. We have national events, where the national levels communicate directly with the affiliated Pernod Ricard in every country to organize large events for thousands of people. Then you have the tiniest events with just 10 students on a little square. My first Pernod Ricard, well, Responsible Party, in this case, event, where I received training as well, was an event with 100 people. And then the next one was with 1,000 people. This kind of versatility is a part of the answer. And look, this is not me just saying because I saw it on the ground. It's also because we have the studies. We have the numbers to back it. Remember that 5 years ago, we released the results of this survey. And as Alexander already mentioned, it was shown that the majority of people that has contacted with this program has, in fact, changed their drinking consumptions into a healthier way of doing it. So in the end, yes, it's about activating people. It's about making sure that these young people grow as adults that are aware about themselves and about their health, and that have a healthy relationship with alcohol consumption and with partying in general.
Good. I'd like now to focus on the on the new campaign that has already been mentioned, and it's an entirely digital campaign which was launched about a year ago as part of Responsible Party. It is called Drink More Water, hence the sign behind us. And let's watch first of all a very short video to present the campaign.
Bienvenue à la discothèque Carame.
Very powerful, short video message. And I'd like to turn to you, Alexandre, because the Drink More Water campaign is clearly a very bold move. You definitely decided to go one step further into the Responsible Party program, and you have chosen to involve marketing teams and marketing agencies, and you've really asked them to come up with a bold concept. I mean, it's quite daring. It's very direct. So why did you make that move?
Well, you're right. One of our biggest know-hows at Pernod Ricard is we're a marketing company. We market brands. We know how to engage with people through powerful campaigns. And so the idea was how to leverage our own expertise to have huge impact. And so we treated this idea of Responsible Party just as if we were developing a campaign for one of our brands, a powerful global campaign. We took an agency, we had a team of people that worked on it, and then we developed it, and then we amplified it just like we do with our brands. And we're very successful with our brands, and if you look at the numbers so far, this has been a very, very successful campaign. Close to 150 million people reach in 11 months, across 34 countries, And my dream is that, we reach 250 million people, 250 million young adults across the world that will understand the concept of a responsible party. And hopefully that will go on the website and really understand how it works, and which will make their lives better lives. And so we did it the Pernod Ricard way, using our expertise as a marketing company.
Well, we wish you a lot of success, more success with that company. Sabina, you wanted to say a word about Drink More Water, so now's your chance. Briefly, because I'd like to take some questions as well.
Thank you for offering me the floor again. I wanted to mention about the Drink More Water campaign that it's an example of showing how we have something that works in the offline and we transfer it in the online to make sure that it reaches more people. And this is a great example for showing how online and offline are collaborators, are together. They only work best when it's together. And we already saw this the video. We saw a bit of the campaign, how it looks like, and it's exactly going on this bold idea that we shouldn't hide under the rug specific topics, but we should address them, not in a judgy, condescending way, but by having fun, by being convivial, by bringing good vibes in the responsible party style. Another mention would be that this message of just drink water can look very insignificant, but it only looks like this because the fact of learning to hydrate yourself, it's such an important step, right, in keeping your good mood, your well-being, in creating significant relationships when you go out.
We actually have received a question from a lady in South Africa. So we're being followed in various parts of the world. It just goes to show. We were saying the program is going global, but not just the program. This particular panel is as well. And the question is, digital Drink More Water is taking the world by storm, indeed, as we have seen with the results. What are the plans to bring this campaign to life on the ground, so in a face-to-face manner? Do you have such plans, Alexandre? Or?
No, but it's exactly what Sabina was saying. Every time there's a party, we activate, and we have the peer-to-peer system. We have the trainings, and we must never, ever, ever forget that it all comes from the ground. The digital piece is indeed the amplification of something which is truly real. By the way, on that amplification, I would add one thing too. Going back to what Sabina said in terms of the witty humor, sense of the ad. We are targeting young adults with this campaign, which resonates with them, by the way. If you ask a 60-year-old person what he or she thinks of that campaign, they don't understand it, of course. They're not the target audience. But again, we must never forget that this is the digital amplification of what we do daily on the ground. At the end of the day, the vision, the dream, which one day I do hope will be a reality. Every single party in the world where you have young adults will be a responsible party. because these are the best parties in the world. That's the dream.
Very good. So I'm sure the message has been heard. I'd like to turn back to our national representatives of the ESN and maybe start with our Spanish and Dutch representatives about the Drink More Water campaign. What has the impact been, or how has it been received in your respective countries? And maybe this time I'll start with our Dutch representative.
The Drink More Water campaign, as the slogan is what you said is very witty, it's very easily reached and adopted by our students ourselves. We use it on our social media campaigns, our local associations, the R18 we have in the Netherlands, share the campaign on their platforms, use this campaign towards universities to also raise awareness to other stakeholders. So we see that this Drink More Water campaign is a very successful, very easy, very low threshold for young adults to raise awareness about alcohol consumption and the well-being of our Dutch students. So we see it as a very, very positive and very successful campaign that we in the Netherlands will definitely continue for the coming years, because we value this very important for us, for our students, for our stakeholders. So we will definitely implement more and look into more opportunities to bring this campaign to the attention and increase the visibility and outreach of this campaign towards our partners.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the case of ESN Spain, it's the same. We are also very happy with the implementation of the campaign and how easy to introduce it to our volunteers it has been. And we started with an internal event for ESN Spain volunteers in October, where we had a training session regarding this campaign, and we actually watched videos like this, and we had some debates about this, how we could strengthen this campaign among our volunteers and students. And we have it in our plans, for example, to foster this in our national events, not only the ones that consist on a weekend or even 4 to 6 days of cultural and ludic exchange, but also in the National Erasmus Games, which are like the national phase of the International Erasmus Games, which are like the event for the cause of health and well-being by excellence, which may have a great fit, especially for campaigns like this. So we think we have a great future with Drink More Water.
Would any other representative, national representative of ESN, like to chip in with their own experience of the campaign? Yes, please. To your right.
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking us all this question and letting us put everything on the table here. We absolutely love to be here. Speaking of which, I'm from Belgium, and I see that we have this beer culture, right? So no matter where we go, since the age of 16, we know that we're gonna drink. And as Sabrina mentioned before, that telling us teenagers that not to do a certain thing is not the right approach. So, and that's like telling us instead that, well, spreading awareness is more what we like to do. And I think ESN is a big part of spreading awareness, like how we discussed before, the communication channel, because that is one of the important aspects into how we are going to spread awareness as to why you want to drink more water. Like even we saw in the video, it was quite straightforward that you maybe don't want to end up in bushes at night, so you might want to drink more water. And that is what all of us at local level, at national level keep doing, and how we also said that ESN is quite activity-driven. So it is always good to be that one person or that one stall in the corner where we are like, you can drink on your own, you can do whatever you like, but it is best for you to drink more water. And I think the slogan itself tells everything. It's a symbol, it stands out there, and being responsible, like a responsible party, it's always good to share more about, well, you know, drink more water. And it's nice it is shared by local students, because it is best to be shared by student if it is something that we are telling students to do. So I think that is it, and we keep on spreading this at our local event, national events, international events even. I think that's the best thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Would anybody else like to share their own experience? Yes, please. going back to the extreme left.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. I'm going to go really practical on that, on what we do in the event. By the way, I'm Alessio, national representative of ESN Italy. I mean, we discussed about the peer-to-peer divulgation of the message of drink more water. Probably most of us experience our events. In our event, there are some called party squad. We discussed it earlier. And it's like this kind of peer-to-peer message that you see these people in a squad distributing water with a camelback, that for the ones that doesn't know, it's like a backpack with a water tank behind, with an incredible smile. And they like, and you see these people and you say, but they are having fun distributing water. And so this is, I think, also a big part of the message, no? We are the role model for the next generation, because as we consider ourselves as the Erasmus generation, we can say, like, we are having fun. We are drinking water. We are having fun. And this is a lot of what we bring to our events. We are volunteers. We don't do that for money. And this is an amazing thing, no? We give a message, we deliver this message, smiling, distributing water, and doing the right thing, because at the end, we are probably having more fun than the one they are completely wasted. And I see this also a behavior that erupted after the pandemics most, because I feel that a lot of people feel that they lost 2 years of their lives, and they have to go harder on what they do. So they think, okay, I've been neglected 2 years of my young age. I have to do more parties. What we try to do instead is saying, okay, you can do it, but do it responsibly. Bring the best of yourself, and this is a strong message.
Indeed, a very strong message. Thank you very much for these testimonies. Please, go ahead, of course.
Now I'm on the other side of the classroom. So, I get to see what the students are doing. It's a different position. I was there, now I'm on the other side. And on the other day, I was just in class, and I noticed a bottle, a drink more water bottle on the table. And I'm not sure that my colleagues in my department are aware of what the campaign is, but definitely the bottles and the message is going around, because it's even in the classroom. It's getting to this stage.
Goes to show, I think the target has been reached, definitely. So now you're going to have to explain to your colleague what it's all about.
I will, I promise.
And show them the bottle and bring them one if you can. That's going to be even better. Do we have questions from the room? Yes? There's a mic. Yes, there's a mic over there.
Thank you. I'm also from ESN the Netherlands. I'm Anne Lot. I, in the past year, really had the chance to work very well with Responsible Party in the Netherlands. And it was a great experience. I saw the impact and importance of the whole campaign, and also Responsible Party in general. So this question was a bit more out of curiosity for Alexander and Juan. Are there any concrete plans for the near future to even intensify this relationship, this campaign further?
Well, we have a lot of events next year. We hopefully will have also Erasmus Generation meeting in Amsterdam, by the way. We have the fantastic OC, the main event of the Erasmus Generation. Responsible Party collaborated very closely this year already, which is fantastic. So I think this is a very important reference, because also the multiplier effect that it brings. Responsible Party was also present at the International Erasmus Games that happened in Coimbra with great support. So I think that, especially now that we see the strength of our events coming back, we need to build on those successful practices. And very importantly, just like also Joao described before, we need to work more on that national support. So how from the European level we can support even more our countries. So all our national events that are a cornerstone of the Erasmus experience, Ibiza, Evento Nazionale, Incontro Culturale Erasmus, Civatel, they have the Responsible Party component to reach the maximum amount of students possible. So I believe that this can be a very nice target to make sure that next year, most of our events, if not all, the big events that our network organizes are done together with Responsible Party.
But you said it all. No, listen, I said it earlier. If we can continually improve, amplify, and scale, you know, and there's this ultimate vision of every single party being a responsible party, that would be great. And that's the goal, that's the vision.
Exactly. If I may, just, this is a very good point, right? Because we are working more and more in ESM with stakeholders, with other student organizations from around the world, and this is the kind of message that we can also pass. You know, when we work with student leaders, the kind of initiatives, collaborations, that's a great thing, right? Pernod Ricard is a global company already. So that collaboration can also spread even beyond Europe as ESM is more and more relevant also beyond the European borders.
Indeed, absolutely. Do we have a final question from the room? If not, I'm going to turn to each of you and ask you for a max 3 words or, 5, not more, but just a one sentence or a couple of words of conclusion, your key takeaway either of the whole program, the whole experience, or what you see for the future, your projection of the program in the coming years. So I'll start with you, João.
Sure. Responsible Party works in Europe. Let's go global now.
Very good. It started going global, so there we are. Sabina.
Difficult.
Yes, it's a difficult exercise. I'm sorry.
It is, because you want us to use just a few words. So, I would like Responsible Party to be the face of responsible youth and sustainability.
Yes, the embodiment of Responsible Party.
So I would say we have very good momentum now in this still pandemic, right? But this aftermath of the pandemic in terms of how this message can permeate, right? Can really get to the people. We have very good momentum also with our events. Let's use this momentum to be even more ambitious in terms of the impact that we can have on the ground.
Thank you. So, Alexandre, the final word is yours then.
So I'll be a good student and I'll just say 3 words that best describe, according to me, both Responsible Party and more specifically now the Drink More Water campaign. And I would say bold, powerful, and universal.
You'll get your brownie points. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think this concludes very nicely our discussion this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here in person and for joining us online. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I thought it was very lively, and it's great to have such a nice, youthful audience. For those of you who are in the room and who registered, there's a bus waiting for us outside to take us to the Belga rooftop for the party. Delighted to have you with us this afternoon.
And you recovered your voice.
Yes, I know. It's been warming up. It's been warming up for the last 2 hours, so now I have a voice. Now I can party. Responsibly, obviously. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a very nice evening for those of you online, and a very nice evening for those of you joining us at the cocktail. Thank you. Bye-bye.